Hello, welcome back to the channel 12-Step Guide with Troy O. Today we are going to continue our fear list developed from the Alcoholics Anonymous Big Book. Uh, Last video we used clues from the Big Book to locate step 4 in the step book because there isn't a column 4 in the Big Book. And it's not clear in the step book unless you find the clues where it continues. Things overlap. We'll jump right in here. I want to tell you a quick story. This is a fear about the fear list, real or imagined, but we'll tell you a quick story, go over that, and then get into the reading. So there's this young gentleman, say he's in ninth grade, and he likes this girl. So they start dating, have sex a few times. She becomes bitchy. Now she's talking to other boys. And at some point, she's walking down the hall like she don't even know him. And they break up. So what's the problem with this example, real or imagined? He never even said hello. This relationship happened in his head. And he was high as a kite at certain times from what I believe would be endorphins in the brain or equivalent, pure morphine. So anyway, it's just my opinion on that. But so what happened here? He was fearful of the girl. Why the fear? He fear of being rejected, maybe. Uh, this may have been an imagined fear, and maybe it was a real fear. We don't know. Maybe failed self-reliance, column 3 in our fear list. Failed self-confidence. Uh, he feared, maybe feared cocky gone wrong. He feared being humiliated. Uh, Somewhere in that process, he could have found a potential calamity or serenity. Uh, Maybe he lacked courage. So just an example, a rough example. But why am I covering this? Somewhere along the way, something begins, and then you maybe build upon it. Even maybe in column 4, maybe his pride was affected. Certainly lust. No doubt he got angry at times. Maybe there was some vainglory there. So, just an example. We're going to start the reading in step 4 in the Alcoholics Anonymous 12 Steps and 12 Traditions step book. We're not getting into the whole reading in step 4. We're going to get into page 48 to 50. And things overlap. So I'm going to just start at a point and end at a point where I think speaks to this section. It could speak to other sections. Other sections could speak to it, but for the most part, right now, we're focusing on our fear list, column 4, our mistake. So page 48, halfway down. Now let's ponder the need for a list of the more glaring personality defects all of us have in varying degrees. I'm going to read a paragraph and then I'm going to break it down. In the step meetings, we would just continue to read right through this whole chapter. So let's see what gets missed even in the paragraph, because I want to slow it down and break it down a little bit for us. So personality defects all of us have in varying degrees. To those having religious training, we had talked about that before as a clue. Such a list would set forth serious violations of moral principles. Some others will think of this list as defects of character. Still others will call it an index of maladjustments. Some will become quite annoyed if there is talk about immorality, let alone sin. But all who are in the least reasonable will agree upon one point. that there is plenty wrong with us alcoholics about which plenty will have to be done if we are to expect sobriety, progress, and any real ability to cope with life. Now, this is the book Alcoholics Anonymous, the original 12 step. It covers all 12 step programs as they come back to the original for guidance. First, what did he just say here? We are the point of step 4. And this is important to understand when you get to step 6 and 7. We're searching for areas that negatively drive us, that drove our behavior. If we can't find what to fix or change, how can we change or fix it? So basically, he used a variety of different names to describe something we all understand. Now we're going to get into the 7 deadly sins. Look at, we know anger, we know lust, right? Just, the church is doing that. I'm not, that's, we know anger, we know lust, we know fear. So he calls it just different descriptions: personality defects, a violation of moral principles, defects of character, index of maladjustments, immorality, sin. Different names. You find what fits you best, what you can hear. And to someone with religious training, I believe this is a great opportunity to work with someone if they come to you with problems, especially more than, say, a luxury step 1. And what do I mean by that? A luxury step 1 is someone who's, they've identified a problem. It's an inconvenience. It isn't going to kill anybody. Maybe it's a personal thing. You may have to turn the volume down on what's going to be said here to find yourself. Now, others, such as myself, this stuff makes considerable sense to me along the way. When I was drinking, and even after, I still needed to fix some stuff. So it's a good way to aid in the repentance process for someone in the church and in with your parishioner. You can help them with step 2 and 3 if they come to you. Step 11. Other people in the program. This process is far greater than any other process I'm aware of in any religious material. Far greater, and there's a clear and defined and way to approach it and go about it, so we all understand what page we're on and when. Because if you have a goal, you think something could help, say the church, just saying here's what's going to help, and they say, gee, thanks. I need to know how to get there, whatever that fix is, whatever that answer is, and everybody has to decide for themselves. Here's the, but this particular part is it's very achievable. So I hope that was helpful. Anyway, we're going to come back to the reading now. So now we've identified different names. To avoid falling into confusion over the names that these defects could be called, let's take a universally recognized list of major human failings. The 7 deadly sins of pride, greed, lust, anger, gluttony, envy, and sloth. It is not by accident that pride heads the procession. So, funeral procession, if you will. Maybe a deadly spiral. We'll come back to that. For pride leading to self-justification and always spurred by conscious or unconscious fears is the basic breeder of most human difficulties, the chief block in true progress. Pride, number 1 in our list, lures us into making demands upon ourselves or upon others which cannot be met without perverting or misusing our God-given instincts. When the satisfaction of our instincts for sex, lust, number 3, security. We know that in our resentment list, columns 3 and 4 in there. In society, this is social society, becomes the sole object of our lives, then pride steps in to justify our excesses, being number 2, the excesses. All these failings generate fear, the fear list, and the column 4 in the resentment list. A soul sickness in its own right. Then fear, in those 2 lists, in turn generates more character defects. Unreasonable fear that our instincts will not be satisfied drives us to covet, number 2, the possessions of others, to lust, number 3, for sex and power, to become angry, number 4, when our destructive demands are threatened, to be envious, number 6, when the ambitions, now ambitions we know column 3 in our resentment list, of others seem to be realized while ours are not. We eat, drink, and grab for more of everything than we need, number 5, fearing we shall never have enough. And with genuine alarm at the prospect of work, we stay lazy, number 7. We loaf and procrastinate, or at best, work grudgingly and under half steam. These fears are the termites that eats wood right out from underneath the house, that ceaselessly devour the foundations of whatever sort of life we try to build. So, just a quick recap of what he said there. In other words, pride heads the procession, maybe a death spiral. It's self justified, driven by fear. So somehow we justified it and fear fed it. Aware or not of this fear, it can happen without us being aware of it. Stands in the way of real human progress. Our pride makes demands which can only be met by embracing what we know to be wrong. The high begins. You ain't taking any drugs or alcohol, but you're high, in my opinion. When we fail to consider all of life and hone in on sex, security, or society, that's social networking. We've looked at that in our resentment list, columns 3 and 4. Then pride gives permission for excess consumption. And we know Bill slipped pride into the resentment list, but it really hammers in now, leading the procession in this fear list. When the excessive behavior fails us, unreasonable fear generates more defects. Well, now we're really stoned. When our mind body says we don't have enough, we covet, that's greed, others' possessions. Lust for sex and power. The kid in high school or whatever, now we're good and stoned via endorphins or equivalent. Maybe some of that pure morphine our brain makes has got as high as a kite. You remember back when you were your first girl, you want to go maybe see him, or you're thinking of stealing something, and that high you get, or pushing past, sneaking around. Well, maybe there's more going on there, and it can get worse and worse. There's innocence and there's deadly. So, lust for sex and power. Then we become angry when told, no, you can't achieve that. We can't satisfy our craving. And become envious when the ambitions of others succeed, but we fail. A cycle develops where we eat, drink, and grab for excesses, fearing it won't be enough. But stay lazy. But there's other words: unmotivated, loaf, procrastinate, when real work is required. So you may not be lazy like I go to work every day. That's not me, but there could be ways that you could achieve things better and don't. Moving on with the step book. We're on page 49 at the bottom. So when AA suggests a fearless moral inventory, step 4, you'll see it on the wall in a meeting, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. It must seem to every newcomer that more is being asked of him than he can do. How much easier is it to stay on step one, maybe two and three? Both his pride and his fear beat him back every time he tries to look within himself. There's a door. Pride and fear. Pride says you need not pass this way. Fear says you dare not look. But the testimony of AAs who have really tried a moral inventory is that pride and fear of this sort turn out to be boogeymen, nothing else. A ghost, some noise out of the darkness. It's not real. It can be navigated. Once we have complete willingness to take inventory and exert ourselves to do the job thoroughly, a wonderful light falls upon this foggy scene. As we persist, a brand new kind of confidence is born. Look at a foggy scene, could be going to meetings a lot, but not doing the steps, not understanding the steps, so you can stay stuck. See, back in the day when Bill and the gang were doing the steps, they did all 12 steps in the first year. And they were achieving real recovery soon. 40 years ago, when I started going to meetings, I was heavily encouraged to stay on step one for a year, or one, two, and three. And I don't know, after that, you just sort of get lost somewhere. And some people, myself, I got there somehow, but in some of it, I couldn't tell you how. It took me a long time to figure it out. And here I am, hoping that I can educate you so that you don't have to suffer that demise. As we persist, a brand new kind of confidence is born. That replaces that failed self-confidence. In the sense of relief at finally facing ourselves is indescribable. I would say that is a godly outcome. It's something that's tough to describe, right? But seemingly, hopefully, it's a good thing for you. These are the first fruits of step four. So I'm going to stop there. I could read the next paragraph, and it could fit a little bit, but we're gonna read the next paragraph at some point in our step four when we're going to get into another section. I'm trying to break this up. Bill didn't say, okay, here's how the next column. He didn't quite admit to it. It's not clear to me that this part that he knew exactly how it fit together. I'm trying to fit it the best that I can see it and understand it. And if you would like it to fit differently, you know where that track breaks off or splits off. Excuse me. That's my hope. So we'll just see if there's any recap here of that. When talking about human instincts, if you were to say do a search online, I would encourage you to search out. Well, we need to understand what Bill's saying based on available knowledge from Bill at the time. Now we know Dr. Silkworth, the doctor's opinion, had some ideas, but there was other information out there. Dr. Carl Jung was someone very instrumental. I'd also maybe look at Dr. Sigmund Freud. There may be something there that Bill considered. So just because if you look at some of the stuff and search it out today, we've developed, we've evolved, we see it differently. But what did Bill know, and what was he writing based on what he was doing at the time? So what I'd like to do now is I have and I'll show it to you real quick here. I have a list of columns, and what I'd like to do is define it out a little bit. Some of these, now we're looking at column 4. Column 1, I'm fearful of. Column, real or imagined. Column 2, why the fear. Column 3, affects my. We covered that in a couple of videos back. Column 4, my mistakes. So truly, these are perceived, I believe, as mistakes. I believe the same flow fits that Bill did his best to provide. Again, he knew that fear was a major, major issue. I'll tell you, recently during these videos, I had an epiphany about the clown drug dealer, just how fear may have driven him, and just how high as a kite he might have been before he ever touched a drug. So I'm going to visit that a little bit today. So why don't we just start with an example, the wife. So what she'll do now that she caught me cheating? I think a couple of ways here. You've been cheating, and now that she's caught you, how about we combine that together a little bit to see a clearer picture of what's been happening? Do you think his pride was probably affected? I would think so. Let's look at pride. So, a basic definition: it's an inward thing, a sense of one's own proper dignity or value, self respect, and excessively high opinion of oneself, conceit. These are different versions. Or an excessive love of self. So, pride can range out, but Bill used it in some different examples. Self righteous pride, only my beliefs are right, grandiose, grand ambitions. Ego or egomaniac, obsessed with one's own greatness, playing the big shot when it was unwarranted. Self justification, justify one's excesses or to make excessive demands. We buried these defects under thick layers. Now, that would be page 54. Self righteous was page 45. So I developed this list as we progress. We may not have actually read it specifically today. So, how about greed? Was there any greed coming from cheating on the wife? Excessive desire to have more than needed? Probably. How about lust, intense desire for something, usually sexual? Cheating on the wife? I think so. Anger or compounding anger becomes rage. I bet she could find some along the way, especially if she suspected and was accusing him of it, for example. We're really looking to admit everything about us we do know in an effort to find out what we don't know about ourselves. And that happens in step 5. Some of it may begin now. Gluttony, to consume in excess. Dating, cheating, and having a wife, that's consumption and maybe an excess. In this particular example. Envy, to painfully want what someone else has, but you're not necessarily resentful towards them about it. Sloth, laziness. Now, I've also, Bill covered it in page 45, but it appears to be deadly sin number 8, vainglory. I talked a little bit about it the last time. Vanity, it's outward, a desire to be seen, appreciated, acknowledged, accepted. I mean, it can be, oh, I got to look perfect. I can't go out without makeup on. To be, maybe embarrass them, and could really have some real bad reactions. It could be to the point where they get depressed because of it, or get angry because of it. So anyway, I'd like to now talk a little bit about the I refer to him as the clown drug dealer, the motivation for why I'm doing these education. Something happened. I haven't covered it yet. We're going to cover it in the future, but I do want to. When I met him, I considered him a friend also. Uh, so maybe his fear would have been going back to prison, and now he's in prison. So maybe because he would lose everything this third time in prison, so we know what it was like, or losing everything and having to start over. And certainly column 3, we covered that last time. So here's stuff that I saw along the way, long before there was the day that I met him. He was scared to death. He'd come out of jail with no program. He hadn't been It treated for anything. I could tell in 2 minutes that he came out of jail. No, they didn't treat him for anything. I was beside myself. He was scared, and he knew it. I could see it. He didn't know me. I didn't know him. He was a neighbor, but he needed something from me to get to his place, to put a new trailer in his place. He needed to back over my yard, so that's what he needed at the time. Along the way, it was evident to pretty much everybody he had some significant pride issues. He wore it on his sleeve, and I'm not going to get into it beyond that, but it was very clear that he did. Greed could have factored in. He, kept losing. He'd build it up to burn it down, and at some point, you maybe you want what you don't have. Lust was a factor. Lust was a clear factor. If you think you can burn women off, kick them aside, and expect they're going to keep their mouth shut, let me tell you something. Yeah, that ain't going to happen. So that's enough of that for now. Didn't really see anger. I honestly just didn't. Gluttony? Yeah, I think so. Yeah, to consume in excess. He was trying to make up for lost time, and I think going back to drugs, there might have been something in there that perhaps he could find if he were doing the inventory. Envy. It was clear to me that he envied others based on to build it up to burn it down scenario. Sloth, he wasn't a lazy man at all. However, he didn't go out and do the right thing by getting a job and staying clean. In vainglory, vanity, I think for sure. He didn't. He was showy. He needed to. There was something driving that, and being the drug dealer, believe me, he was high as a kite. I'm sure by the time I had gotten sick for 3 months, so by the time I hadn't seen much of him. So there's a big missing piece there. But and then I had talked to people later and filled in the picture. I was along the way. I thought that it looked like things weren't going to go well, but I thought maybe he'd screw up a little bit, and then maybe he'd hear something. So anyway, he's doing 40 years, and so there's that. So there's some examples. So next time we are going to visit column 5 and figure out that. Thank you. Have a nice day.
If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe. Ring the bell to be notified when new content is added. Also, you can support the channel 12-Step Guide with Troyo by donating through PayPal to hsworldservice@yahoo.com. In Step 4, we are laying the groundwork and planting seeds for the 9th step promises. Those promises are: we are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Keep moving forward. It's worth the effort.